Can I do aquaponics without soil? I'm still kind of wondering why you're doing aquaponics with soil, but let's have a quick look and see, hey? Don't forget to hit that subscribe button. I'm putting videos up every couple of days, so make sure that you hit subscribe so you can get all of them. Right, so a lot of people think that we use soil within aquaponics. Aquaponics, by its true definition and what it is a soilless medium. So what we're using, instead of soil, we're using some form of clay or gravel, because this is where the bacteria lives that converts all of the ammonia from the fish into nitrite and then nitrate, which the veggies use as their fertilizer. It's a soilless media. Aquaponics is an ecosystem. People don't always understand that it's an ecosystem, but it is. We have fish that are producing the ammonia. We have the bacteria that is converting the ammonia into a usable fertilizer for the veggies, and the veggies are filtering the water for the fish. It's a nice, beautiful little ecosystem. People don't understand how it can work when we're so conditioned that soil is the best way of growing. Soil, once you get all of the microbes and everything happening in there, it's a great way of growing, and I'm not going to put down soil gardening. But it is a totally different type of gardening to aquaponics. Now, I have wicking beds and pots all around my place because I have no soil where I live. My house was chipped into a mountain, and so it's shale everywhere. I spent a fortune putting different forms of soil down, only to have it all wash away in heavy rains and come back to the shale. Doesn't work. So for me, soil gardening can't work here. And if you're living somewhere where you're on cement, soil gardening's not going to work. You can do things like container gardening, and that works, but you have to keep topping up with the soil and making sure what happens. And then you're buying generally artificial soil that does not have the microbes and all of the good stuff in it that makes really healthy soil. You know, and that's what we're wanting, honestly, in the soil garden, isn't it? We're wanting to make sure there's plenty of nutrients in the soil. The problem is that in some areas of the world, the soil is now lacking in nutrients. It's been so badly degraded by the commercial farming and what's been added that it just doesn't have enough nutrients. I can see there's a shadow there. Sorry, I'm trying to we'll take that back a bit. It's been so badly degraded that there's no nutrients, or not much nutrients, or there's no microbes in that within the soil. So you're needing to spend a lot of time and energy to get your soil working really, really well. And if you can, awesome. What a great way of growing. But you need to understand that. You need to understand that these days the soil is so degraded, you need to build it up. You can do it naturally, but that's going to take a lot of time. And if you go to the hardware stores and the landscapers and you buy a whole heap of mushroom compost and garden compost, it's all dead still. It's not full of all of that microbe life. It's not there. And it's really sad, and often it's been sprayed. They say it hasn't, but they kind of do, because they need to make sure that there's nothing growing and sprouting in there. And I go through and I ask a lot of all of my local places, is it sprayed? And I've had to go right back to their supplier and then their supplier to find out. And unfortunately in my local area, that's what they've done. Can't speak for your place, but that's around here. So for me, soil gardening is not an option. Aquaponics, on the other hand, does not need soil, because it runs in a different way. We don't take any of the microbes or any of the nutrients from the soil. We've created a man-made ecosystem, and we have everything happening in that ecosystem that needs to happen. The fish food, and this is one of the reasons it's so important to make sure we've got good quality fish food. That fish food has all of the nutrients, except for chelated iron, that the plants then need. So the plants are picking up all of the waste within that system from the waste of the fish food that's not being used. So it's like how when we compost and we use up the different horse poo and the chicken poo and the cow poo and all the different types of poos everywhere, that we then mix up into our worm farm or our compost, and we set it, and all of the nutrients are in there that they've picked up from the grasses and from everything that they've eaten. It's then been digested and broken down in a way that then becomes a living thing. Similar thing happened within aquaponics. We give the fish really good fish food, and they then digest it, and any of those wastes, any of those micronutrients are then what's key for our aquaponics system. Okay, so it's really, really important that we give good food to start off with, otherwise we are lacking in nutrients. Now, sometimes we do need to add things like calcium. Some eggshells work really, really well. Sometimes we do need to add something to increase our pH. Add some potassium bicarb. One of the best ways of increasing your pH in the water, making sure that we're getting some potassium for our fruiting vegetables that need it. We don't use regular soil in aquaponics. If you do start using soil in your aquaponics system, that can affect the water chemistry and the water quality. And that means the ammonia levels and the nitrite levels and everything like that can be affected by anything that you then add that's different. You shouldn't need to be adding fertilizers to your aquaponics system unless you're cycling it. Now, I do add usually about a cup of my worm juice from my worm farm every week, and that helps with any of those micronutrients that I don't have happening anywhere else. But that's all that I'm needing to add for an aquaponics system. I have some shells in there in the system, so I'm getting the calcium and I'm getting the pH increasing naturally. It's an ecosystem. It's just a different ecosystem that's happening in the soil. It's just like the ocean is a different ecosystem than what is happening in our freshwater creeks and our wetlands and land. Everything has different forms of ecosystems, and we do not need to have soil in our aquaponics system to have it growing well and healthy. There you have it.